gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Smash the like, hit subscribe. We work really hard on this channel about Canadian federal politics. In this video, we've got Deputy Conservative Leader Melissa Lantsman. She is a sharp ticket, very interesting to watch. Let's take a look. Melissa Lantsman always makes these great videos. Let's take a peek.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
There's a fantastic movie that I think should be on everybody's bucket list. It's called Brazil. It's a dystopian masterpiece. The state is depicted as a vast, self-perpetuating bureaucratic machine whose primary purpose is no longer to serve citizens, but to protect and expand itself. Every department exists mainly to justify its own budget, its own staff, and its own procedures. The film is a brilliant critique of modern governments that once they lose any external discipline, market forces, democratic accountability, or even basic outcomes, its only remaining survival strategy is continuous growth, more process, more forms, and more control until the entirety of society is suffocated by paperwork. Process and paperwork is not a byproduct. It is the product.
It being 4 p.m., the House will now proceed to the consideration of the Ways and Means motion.
When I sat there for an hour and 5 minutes listening to the finance minister read nearly the entire Liberal budget into the parliamentary record, I couldn't help but to think of the scene from Brazil. Every single part of this historic, quote, generational change just involved more government, a new department, a new regulatory process for the private sector to follow, and ultimately more centralized government control of the Canadian economy. We can argue with the billions in new spending, the tens of billions of new debt that you'll pay for, the zero mention of pipelines, or the zero efforts to rein in inflation. And believe me, I will. But frankly, I want to focus on something much more insidious than that. The Liberal tendency for central planning.
So that's part of, we answer that question with full information by doing the work, and that's what the referral to the Major Project Office facilitates. Thank you.
Central planning, in a nutshell, is a system in which a small group of government officials claims power to control an entire nation's economy, deciding what will be produced in what quantity, by whom, and at what price, replacing the voluntary choices of millions of individuals with the compulsory orders of the state. It's the ultimate expression of government overreach, the belief that a handful of bureaucrats can successfully direct the lives of everyone else, when history shows us that they always fail. They only produce shortages and stagnation and the utter loss of ambition. What this budget screams is that Liberals want a government that will try to steer an entire economy from a windowless room in Ottawa, armed with spreadsheets and slogans and the dangerous belief that they know better than everyone else.
The Minister for Environment and Climate Change.
We're talking, Mr. Speaker, so I was sitting. I'm a Liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker.
I'm a Liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker. I'm a Liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker.
And you look at this central planning, and it's everywhere. Here's just a few examples, but this video could be 20 minutes long. I promise you. The Major Projects Office? Well, it's supposed to fast-track selected projects. But because of all of the previous government's regulations that stop the projects from going ahead remain in place, the effect is that the government, not the market, chooses the winners and the losers. And by the way, most of these new projects that have already been announced, well, they've been going forward for almost a decade. This means that if you want your project approved, you need to focus on what the government wants. This is textbook industrial policy, a central authority deciding which multi-billion-dollar projects live or die. On the housing crisis, the government's solution is yet another housing agency. We already have several in this country, but the end result is more centralized control. The government will cut red tape selectively for government-favored approaches to what kind of housing we all live in. At the moment, that means modular houses only. That's, of course, after the Prime Minister promised to help municipalities cut their home building taxes in half, which didn't happen, by the way, in this budget. So on the modular housing plans, that's their vision. Someone in Ottawa needs to say this out loud. No one wants them. You won't buy them. But the government has decided that that's what you're getting. Your choices are replaced with government process. Even in the government's enabling of investment, which we heard a lot about in the budget, it puts the government at the center of the action because any private investment is catalyzed by incentives, tax incentives, or crown corporation financing. The only projects that are approved are state prioritized projects. What the market really needs, what you really need, are secondary considerations. We're leaving it up to some person sitting in a windowless office in Ottawa to decide the needs of millions of people they have never met, with a degree of complexity that is simply beyond their capacity. I want to show you something. This is a regular city street. Every car you see, every person you see, if they're out or in the car, they're making a market decision. Each person has their own hopes, their dreams, their secrets and their savings, lies they tell themselves, some fantastic news that they can't wait to share with their family. This is the economy. It is billions and billions of decisions on a micro level. And from 30,000 feet, it looks like just a bunch of pretty lights. It's this kind of complexity that is perpetually out of reach for centralized planning and for government. I know that it's impossible because every government that has gone down this road has failed horribly. Take the Soviet Union. In the 20th century, central planners in Moscow dictated everything from crop production to shoe manufacturing. They promised abundance, but they couldn't foresee famines and respond to shortages. Millions starved while warehouses overflowed with unwanted goods. Why? Because no bureaucracy can match the efficiency of millions of people making millions of choices in a free market. Or Venezuela. Once South America's richest nation, it embraced socialist central planning under Chavez and Maduro. The government seized industries. They fixed prices, they doled out subsidies, but they couldn't predict oil price crashes or adapt to the kind of corruption we saw. Hyperinflation ensued, food lines stretched blocks, and citizens en masse starved. Its central planning turned into poverty. Even in Mao's China, during the Great Leap Forward, planners forced collectivized farming and backyard steel production, ignoring local knowledge and reality. The result? Tens of millions died in famine because the system couldn't respond to crop failures or, frankly, human needs. These aren't anomalies. They're the inevitable outcome of governments that play God with economies. We've known that none of this works, and we've known it for so long. Even a movie in the 80s was able to show us Brazil wasn't mere fiction. It was a stark warning about the self-perpetuating monster of unchecked bureaucracy. In Canada, we're seeing echoes of the same in this budget. More control, more spending, more of the same. But for a decade, Liberals spent hundreds of billions of dollars on every project you can imagine. And they spent more than all previous governments combined. Yet the standard of living stagnated or got worse for a lot. Productivity flatlined, investment per worker lags behind all of our global peers. Their investments are really just deficits that haven't delivered. And now we spend more on debt interest than on healthcare transfers, more than every dollar collected on the GST. Every sales tax dollar in this country goes to bankers, not doctors or nurses or hospitals. They see this. They see the same thing we all see. And their big, bold ideas is just doing more of the same. It's because they can't help it. The Prime Minister wants big, bold ideas, so I'll give him some. How about cutting taxes and cutting regulations so that Canadians can keep more of what they earn? How about spending less to control inflation and debt plaguing our country, the ones that are only going to get worse? And while we're at it, how about turning the page from the same old Trudeau-era policies that we know just didn't work? How about believing in people, their decisions, and their ability to be the ambition of this great country? How about all of that?
Oh, yeah. All right, gang, we'll wrap it up right there. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. We cover everything from the House of Commons floor to the committees to legacy media to the scrums. We cover it all. Videos like this one. Like, share, subscribe. If you're a Liberal voter, I would highly recommend watching some videos from this channel. Who knows what you'll learn? maybe something. I don't think if you're a Liberal voter, you're watching Frontline Politics. Come and get yours right here. Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. Click one of the other ones floating around here. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, gang.